Now it's time for possibly the most exciting portion, the cross-examination. If you have questions written down on your cards, now is the time. Please pass them to the aisles, these two aisles. Our runners will pick them up and bring them where they need to go. Please pass those in now. We're going to go right into cross-examination though. So while you're doing that, please continue to give your attention. Ladies and gentlemen. First for cross-examination, John-Mark Miravalle. You have 5 minutes. Please address your questions to Dan Barker.
Great, thanks. Can everybody hear me? Do I get more time?
Yes.
We good? No. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm clicking my little clock. So Dan, I know you're familiar with the law of excluded middle, which says that if you have two comprehensive categories, there's no possible alternative for a different category. So there's two mutually comprehensive categories, things that don't have to exist and things which must exist necessarily. I'm asking, what other possible explanation can there be for the existence of things that don't have to exist?
I think the very phrase, things that don't have to exist, is a conceptual phrase that's not referring to anything in reality. Our brains can come up with all sorts of concepts that don't exist in reality. And we can even make words for them. Okay. So in order for your question to have any meaning at all, I have to know what it means for... I have to know what you mean by that phrase, things that don't exist. So it's a question that can't even be answered until it's defined properly.
Well, let me try this, and this is a quote from your book, and maybe you've changed your mind. I don't mean to imply that you still think this, but on page 109 you said this. You said, life as we know it, humans for example, did not have to evolve. Now that seems to indicate an insight of yours, and I would say a very true one, that certain things in the universe, for instance living things, do not have to exist.
Yeah, but what's the point? I mean, they don't.
So it seems that you're very familiar with the type of ideas I'm using.
I know. I've just said to you that there are many things that we can conceptualize that don't exist in reality.
So you're saying what you said does not reflect reality at all? Just some quirks of your mind?
A concept is a real thing. A functioning brain functions in a way that it produces concepts within that brain. So that concept is a real thing, and it does exist.
Good. Does it correspond to extra-mental reality?
But if I have a concept of something that doesn't exist, the concept is what we're talking about that's real. So I don't know what you're talking about. How can there be a non-existing thing that has some meaning to it?
Well, I don't know. You seem to say that life could be non-existing in that quote. Is that not what you said?
Well, yeah, we could have been in a universe where life never evolved.
Bingo.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So things don't have to exist. The things in this universe don't have to exist. We recognize the truth of that. That means there's only one possible alternative explanation. It means the terms I'm using make sense. What could be that explanation for these things which you know in the universe don't have to exist?
Well, for one thing, life is not a thing.
Living things. Living things.
Yeah, living things are just the same matter and the same stuff. That stuff exists within our universe. The atoms, the molecules, those things exist. Their arrangement of them in a functional, complex arrangement of them are what we call life, and that is a concept.
Yeah, but now you're talking about the meaning of life. I want to talk about the existence or non-existence, which you recognize as a real possibility for things like living things in the universe.
And when I made that comment, I wasn't saying that just if humans don't exist, then no life would exist. There could have been some other form of life other than humans.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
So what's the point?
The things that exist don't have to exist. We both seem to agree on that. There's only one possible conceptual explanation for the things that don't have to exist, and that is something that has to exist that serves as a source of that existence. What's the alternative? You're saying the words don't make sense, but then you seem to say that they do by using them about reality.
If a functioning brain did not exist, there would not even be a concept of those functioning brains that don't exist. So the fact that we do have functioning brains, the whole idea of a non-existent thing is a concept. A non-existent thing is not a non-existent thing. It's a concept in our brains, is what it is.
Okay. I feel like my point's pretty simple, and I haven't understood how you've responded to it. The point is that certain things in the universe exist, but don't have to. That means their existence is non-necessary, non-essential. We've both agreed about that. So why do they exist? That's a good question.
Well, you could ask the same question about God.
No, you couldn't, because
Yes, you
God
can.
is the alternative. We've already said, as we've defined God, it's like asking the same question about the magnet. Why is the magnet magnetic? It has to be magnetic. Why does the triangle have 3 sides? It has to have 3 sides. God is that which we have concluded must exist.
Then why can't we just say that the universe is that which we take as a brute fact?
Oh,
rather than
good,
God?
easy. Because the universe is made up of things that don't have to exist, so it'd be like adding a bunch of blue M&Ms and then saying, well, but the group of blue M&Ms is green.
Well, it seems to me you're bringing your conclusion into your premise then, because you are asserting a being that doesn't have to exist in advance to make an argument that such a being does exist. You're dividing the world into two separate concepts.
I think our time's up.
Is it an essential feature of a polygon that it have 3 sides?
No, unless it's a triangle.
There you go. So for a polygon to exist, it doesn't have to be a 3-sided figure. So 3-sidedness is not an essential feature of a polygon.
Unless it's a triangular polygon.
So if I were to say the same thing,
It's so
blue
easy.
triangle, in order for a blue triangle to exist, to be an essential feature of a blue triangle is that it have 3 sides and be blue.
But that's not
we're
true.
defining what a blue triangle is. You're defining a 3-sided polygon. You're just picking your words to think that 3-sidedness is somehow, by definition, an essential feature of that thing, when I could just add...
If it's a triangle, it is. Are you saying there's no real triangles? And
No,
that triangles that are real don't have 3 sides?
Are you saying there are no blue triangles?
No,
of course there are blue
here's
triangles.
one. But I don't see why it has to be blue.
Are you telling me that an argument is an evidence?
I'm saying an argument is based on evidence or it's not worthy of the name.
But when I ask for evidence for God, you're giving me evidence for our existence and you're giving me evidence for moral things. But you're not giving me, what is God made of?
No,
what is he defined of? How much space does he occupy? How much does he weigh? How would God differ from a non-God? How do you define? What evidence can you give, not to answer these unanswered questions, but what evidence can you give for your God? What is it like?
I think you misunderstood the direction of the proofs. I wasn't providing evidence that things exist. That we know. That things exist was the evidence I provided for God, which now we know too.
But you were responding to my rebuttal, which was rebutting your claim. So,
Sorry, I didn't get that last one.
Does this bottle mean there's a God?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the proof.
And what is this being God thing? What is it made of? Is God made of spirit?
God is what I've told you he is. Is
he made of spirit?
Completely perfect.
Is he a spirit?
Yeah. Well, let me explain that.
Okay,
because
well, define spirit.
You
then.
bet. Something with intelligence and freedom.
That's what spirit is?
Oh yeah, man.
So,
and by the way, because God is infinitely perfect, he has to have the perfections of intelligence and freedom. And I'd say that in America we know freedom is a perfection, and at a university we know that intelligence and understanding are perfections, right? Probably not too much controversy on that one. So this infinitely perfect being has got to possess the perfections of intelligence and freedom, which is all I mean by spirit. By
definition, right? But not by any evidence that you have offered us of that being. You offered us evidence for gaps in our understanding, but you've not actually admit it, you don't have evidence for the being itself.
I don't see any gaps in our understanding. I think the understanding is pretty clear. We have evidence. You haven't shown where I took a misstep on any rational course. You just say, I don't accept that evidence. Well, show me why.
But it's an evidence for plastic bottle is just
I'm not giving an evidence for plastic bottles. I'm starting with the fact of the plastic bottle.
Folks, I have evidence for unicorns. It's right here. Here it is. Is this evidence for unicorns?
I'd like to, before you can make that right parody, you have to make a good argument from the bottle to the unicorns.
Exactly.
You haven't done that.
Exactly.
I made a good one for God.
I think you just proved my point. In Psalm 137:9, God said, "Blessed are they, happy shall ye be who take and dash the little children against the stones." It doesn't say you should regretfully have to do it during wartime. It said you should be happy and blessed to torture and dash innocent babies against the stone. If God told you to kill me, would you do it?
Yeah, that's an easy answer.
You would?
I said it's an easy answer. Now, God can't contradict himself because he's perfect and his communication is perfect, which means that he can't tell me one thing through my moral convictions and then tell me something completely different through private revelation. So he can't tell me through my moral convictions, don't rape, and then command me to rape. He can't tell me through my moral convictions, don't hate, and then command me to hate. And he can't tell me through my moral convictions, don't murder, and then command me to murder, which makes it pretty simple. So God can't command me to murder you.
So why did he command you to be happy to dash innocent babies against the stones in his Bible?
What a shame. Our time's up.
John-Mark, would you be willing to answer? I'll extend the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I would. I would say that if I begin to get into questions of biblical exegesis, we will never stop. Just as if I begin to get into an analysis of the 30 Years' War, which Dan also brought up, we will never stop. So instead of doing that, I will repeat what I said again and say that God cannot command what is intrinsically evil, because his moral convictions that he gives us, that he is the only plausible source for, is precisely what tells us what is the expression, tells us what his will is for us. Write it down on the card.
That was an incredible exchange. Thank you both. That was amazing.